Hello and welcome to Films for the Very First Time. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Casey McGeorge. How are you today, Casey?
Oh, how's it going, everybody?
It's going well. It's going well. We're now on our bi-weekly schedule, so these episodes will be dropping every other week, so two a month. One, because we are barreling through movies, so this is number 20, I believe.
Yeah,
uh, and two, just it's a little draining watching a movie every week and recording about it and doing it justice. So making sure to have time to actually digest this, I think, is good. Um, but yeah, so I am really excited today. This is a movie that I picked, and we are going to be talking about The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad by James Gunn, directed and written by James Gunn, and it premiered August 5th, 2021. Music by John Murphy. So I'll kind of set the stage here where I was in 2021, and then we'll get to Casey here. I was uh I remember getting excited for this movie when it was actually announced. I believe it was like 2019, 2018. It was after James Gunn was fired from Guardians 3. DC pretty much went to him and said, you have whatever you want. You can do anything you want. And he said, I'm doing the Suicide Squad. I think he wanted to call it something else. Suicide Squad something, like with a colon after it. I think they decided to just name it The Suicide Squad, which is confusing when you have a movie that came out before that was just Suicide Squad. And it is a loose sequel to that film that performed well in the box office, but not critically. And but what I mean by loose sequel is that they slightly allude to them working together before, and there's a couple characters that are from the movie.
yeah. I was gonna ask about that. Before to me, this seems like a sequel slash reboot. Where okay, it's a sequel in the aspect of Colonel Flag is back, Amanda Waller's back, Harley
Captain
Quinn is
Boomerang
back,
and Harley. Yeah.
and Boomerang is back. And they kind of acknowledge that they have worked together before, but it's like they don't speak of whatever it was that happened before, but you can tell that they have some sort of a history together. But then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, uh, we're continuing on, and these are the same. These are people that will help us continue on from the previous story that we don't want to speak of for whatever reason. But now here's 58 new characters, and we're gonna start this all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
That was actually
Which
gonna
is
be a question I had: was is this technically a sequel, but also like a reboot, or how is this classified? But I think
I
you kind of
believe
answered
James
that.
Gunn has clarified that this is a sequel. I think he's kind of said what I said. A loose sequel. Like you can so they wanted to make sure it wasn't a sequel in the sense of the bad rap that Suicide Squad got, right? So you want, and also you don't want to hinder people going to see it by saying this is a sequel, because then most people are going to think, oh, I need to go watch the first one, which is why it's not called like Suicide Squad 2, right? Is because then people are going to think, oh, I have to, I didn't see the first one, I'm not going to go see this one. So they were kind of like, this is the weird state DC movies were in post Batman versus Superman when everything comes crumbling down, is because they keep resetting a bit by saying like we'll take what's popular and we'll briefly allude to other stuff, but we also don't want you to think that this is tied to that other thing that bombed. And they
But it
just
kind
kind of
of
kept in that
is.
cycle. Yeah. And they
It
just
this
kept in that cycle.
I haven't watched a ton of the DC movies, so I'm gonna speak just from what I'm gathering here. You tell me if this is a correct assessment. This seems like a perfect example of one step forward, but two steps back. Like one step forward in, okay, we're gonna start new stories, and we're gonna keep a little bit of the continuity, but the two steps back is it's all new stories, and we're gonna act like nothing ever happened except for these three things we want you to remember Like with any story, not just necessarily with this.
Yeah, yeah,
Like with
yeah.
these three things that we want you to remember that we thought were good from this previous movie, but everything else you can forget about it. It didn't happen. But don't forget about these three things right here because they're kind of important and we're going to need them later. And so to me, this seems like the
Yeah,
one step forward, two steps back thing.
sort of. What doesn't help it is that like after some failures, and also just like the studio itself going changes. You know, they get getting bought out by AT&T during this, and then at some point they're going to get bought by, merge with Discovery, and each leader starts thinking like, all right, we want to keep making DC movies, but we don't want to hit the full reset. So how do we do this? Because they don't want to hit the full reset because Aquaman made $1 billion, Wonder Woman did well, and they're like, we got to keep those people, but we can't. So they always were worried about the fresh start. We will now get the fresh start with James Gunn's Superman Legacy in the
This
DCU.
the whole Warner Brothers and DC thing has just been a nightmare for a while. They were talking about selling their games division for a long period of time,
Right.
but then they did, and then they didn't want to. But then they were looking for potential buyers for it. Like that whole thing was ludicrous, and it was just either. And then, like you said, the whole let's reset a little bit. Now they're just like they had stuff that was already in the pipeline and made, so they're like, okay, let's just push these out. But nothing after like these don't count. We're starting all brand new, fresh, all over. The one thing that gets me is in my lifetime, I have seen one, two, three, four, five different people play Batman in a movie.
Yes.
Okay, I'm counting like Adam West because I like. Yes, it was off the air by the time I seen it, but I did watch the old Batman shows, and I love the old Batman movie with him running around with the bomb in his hand and ducks he has.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just awesome. But I've seen five different people. Actually, no, I'm sorry, seven because I forgot about George Clooney and Val Kilmer. I have
Yes.
seen seven different
Keaton,
people. Yeah,
Kilmer,
I was only counting Keaton.
Clooney, Bale, Affleck, Pattinson,
Yeah, Adam
West.
West.
7. If you take out Adam West, though, it's 6 in the last 30 years.
In my
25 years,
lifetime, in my lifetime,
right?
I have seen
No, no, not 25 years. Sorry. 35 years.
in my lifetime, I have seen. Okay, let's take Adam West out, and let's start just from the Batman movie itself, the Tim Burton's Batman movie, right?
Yeah,
I've seen
that's 89. Yep.
six different people take up the mantle of Batman. Now, granted, sometimes that's going to happen because people are going to age out of the character, not going to want to do it, whatever, whatever. Once again, I've seen six different people play this character over the course of my lifetime. That's just ridiculous. And I'm sure we're about to get a seventh because,
We will, yep.
from what I gather, Robert Pattinson's The Batman was just its own separate entity. It wasn't connected to anything really. And now with
Yeah.
him, with James Gunn restarting everything, that means they're gonna get somebody else to take up the. And it's just like it like at some point, my opinion, and I know this counts for absolutely nothing. If this doesn't work, you got to stop with Batman. Like he needs a break. The character itself, like give it at least a 5-10 year break, and then come back later. But
The
it's
bad
just
thing
way
is
too many
Batman's
people.
their most consistent, so they won't. They won't do
It's
that.
just like I said, I'm old. I'm 45. I'm old. I get that. It's just way too many people.
Yeah. Well, so this movie gets announced. I it filmed I think in 2019 before COVID because I remember like set pictures leaking while I'm on my lunch break at work and stuff, and I'm like, what, looking at set photos. And then 2020, when everything shut down, they did an event called DC Fandom where they, like reveal stuff, almost like a Comic Con type thing, but virtual. And James Gunn revealed the first trailer for this and character posters, and that was the first time we got to know who everybody was playing. It was very like hush hush who everyone was playing and what characters they were. And the best thing about James Gunn, I think, is that a lot of people did not know who some of these characters were, which is just peak James Gunn, I think, at times. Um, so uh, so this movie released in theaters and HBO Max the same day, August 5th, 2021. I saw it in theaters that weekend. Then the next day, I watched it on Max again just to make sure I caught everything. And then I've watched it another 2 times since. So that's where I am on this. I picked this movie because we'll get to my ratings later, but I'll just say this is my favorite of the DCEU. That's from Man of Steel to Aquaman 2 at this point. And that's it. Aquaman 2 is the last of the DCEU before we reboot with Superman Legacy in 2025. Whew, next year already. Next year. Okay, Casey, where were you in August of 2021 and what kept you from seeing this? Because it sounds like you saw the first one.
Okay, so I just moved out to California in 2013. Wow, been out in California for 10 years now. And when did the first one come out? Was it 2015, 2016?
16. Yeah.
I remember the trailers for that, right? The trailers were crazy in a good way. Like the trailers were blowing up on YouTube, right? And they had a couple different ones. And then you add the music that they added to the trailers with what did they have? Ballroom
Wasn't it?
Blitz was one of them.
Yes. Did they
Um,
do like Bohemian? Did they do a
yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody
Bohemian
one or
Rhapsody was
something?
another one, right? And so like the music choice and everything, which I thought was great. Now, obviously, I knew of the Joker. You have to, right? I knew
Yeah.
of Harley Quinn because of the Batman video games. I never watched Batman the animated series, and I probably should because I've heard it's really good. But I know she is literally a newer character. I think they made her just for the animated series. I think, right?
Yes, 92 was her first
Like,
appearance.
yeah, she was
1992.
created just for that, and then she's gone on to have like this huge fandom because she was such an interesting character, and got some obvious sexualization of the character and various other things.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember the first one. When I saw the first one, I thought it wasn't as bad as people said, right? I think we talked about this last week. I thought it was,
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. Like it wasn't like an Avengers level movie or anything like that where it was like
No.
totally mind blowing. But I didn't think it was as bad as people thought it was. But then again, I don't know of the source material. So I don't know if people who are looking at it saying how bad it is are looking at it because they know of the source material and where these characters came from. So I like that could have a lot to do with it. And I get that. Like I'm just average Joe fan, right? Going into this kind of fresh. So here it is 3 years later, they announce another one with eventually the same title. With just
Pretty
"the" in
much.
front of it, right? And
Yeah.
then you find out, okay, Margot Robbie's coming back as Harley Quinn. Okay, cool. Like, who doesn't love Margot Robbie? Not only is she incredibly beautiful, but she's a fantastic actress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's her name's coming back as Amanda Waller, right? You got a couple of, like we said, a couple other people are coming
Yep.
back.
Joel
Okay,
Kinnaman as Rick Flag. Yep.
yeah, Flag and Boomerang are coming back, but no Will Smith, no none of the other characters. And then you see some of these other people, and I'm like, I have no clue who any of these other characters are.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was like, I don't know why this movie is being made. I will be honest with you. Like when I saw it, and it wasn't totally a sequel, but it wasn't totally a reboot, right?
Yep.
To me, looking at it as just average Joe fan in the back, I thought this is just a money grab. I have no clue who half of these characters are. And I don't know why this movie's being made. Like, I don't know what position, like, and I'm going to ask you, obviously you said James Gunn wanted to do this. That's on him.
Yeah.
He can. Okay. Outside of James Gunn saying I want to do this particular movie, was there any demand or requests, or was there any outrage of people wanting to see more of the Suicide Squad, or was this just? Am I wrong in that? Where that like there wasn't a demand for it?
There wasn't really. Apparently, originally they were planning for David Ayer and Will Smith to return for a sequel back in 2017, but I think with it kind of got it. That was before the release of the movie, the first one, and I think
Yeah,
after that it kind of killed any momentum for it.
I'm sure when they
Um,
signed their contracts for the characters, they probably had them locked up for at
yeah,
least two, if not three or four movies. If I had to get,
and
like, if I just had a rough guess, like they
they
probably
were
said at
trying
least a
to
sequel
get
movie.
yeah, they were trying to get another director back in like 2017 to do it, but from what Gunn had asked is that Warner Brothers, after he got fired, Warner Brothers went out to Gunn and actually asked him to make Superman. And he said, I don't want to do Superman or the Justice League. I want to do the Suicide Squad. Um, and I think part of that is why he eventually does say yes to Superman now and doing it is because Superman back then, he probably would have been locked in with having to do something with Henry Cavill or not being able to have as much control as he wanted. Now he was able to kind of leverage this to have as much control as he wanted going forward. And I think he wanted to just stay. They said that he can adapt any DC property he liked. So he went to Suicide Squad. So I think by this point they were kind of done with trying to find another Suicide Squad director for a film. I think they were like, the first one didn't really do well. We were trying to get one off the ground. We couldn't really find anybody. And then James Gunn falls in their lap from Disney firing him, and they say, hey, we need you to do Superman. And he's like, no, I actually want to do Suicide Squad. So it kind of ends up being like a happy accident. But it's funny that you said you thought this was maybe like a money a money grab when you see some of these characters you don't know and stuff. This is yeah, I think if it was a mandated Suicide Squad 2, actually, he would have been forced to use a lot more of the characters from the first one. But I think, like when we look at some of the characters that I'm going to go through in a little bit here, it's it's like D list, right? D list and below characters.
And to me, from the outside looking in, like I didn't know there was a damn what, a weasel in this. Like what? Like and
Yes,
then
Weasel is in
and
this. Yeah.
initially, like I didn't even know there was a weasel character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so as I start watching this yesterday and I see this, I'm like I know the story that okay he got fired for some things for from Guardians 3 before they brought him back for Guardians 3, and then he ended up
Yeah,
making
he actually
this.
agreed to this movie like the day before Marvel hired him back, actually. So then once Marvel hired him back, he said, "But I have to fulfill this before I do Guardians 3."
So to me, it was to me once again no knowledge, just outside looking in. It was like it almost seemed like he was just trying to recreate Guardians of the Galaxy to an extent. Like instead of a
With
raccoon, let's get
Rocket.
a weasel. Yeah, and stuff like that. Instead of Drax, let's get King Shark, right? To an
Yeah.
extent, like just like I said, just rough looking at it, and I'm just like, this makes no damn sense. Like, what is this? Like, I can only
Oh,
imagine if anybody would have came and saw this movie on either like some sort of psychedelic mushrooms or acid or something, like this would have just been ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. All right. So let's dive into it here. So the description I wrote for this movie is when the military overthrow the government on Corto Maltese, Amanda Waller sends the Squad there to stop Project Starfish. Nice short log line there. Okay, so characters. I have them listed in their groups. So I have our characters listed as the Suicide Squad Team Distraction, as we'll find out that this is the team that's sent in there to be the distraction. We have Savant, played by Michael Rooker. Character names Brian Durlin. He first appeared in Birds of Prey number 56 in August of 2003, created by Gail Simone and Ed Benes. We have Blackguard, played by Pete Davidson, which is first appeared in Booster Gold number 1 in 1986, created by Dan Jurgens. Captain Boomerang, played by Jai Courtney, first appeared in the Flash 117, December of 1960, created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino. TDK, the Detachable Kid, played by Nathan Fillion. The first appearance is Secret Origins number 46, 1989, created by Gerard Jones and Kurt Swan. Mongal, played by Mei Ling Ning. I don't know how to pronounce that. NG is the last name. I know that's a very popular last name, but I don't know how to pronounce that. First appearance, Showcase 95, number 8 in 1995, created by Peter Tomasi and Scott Eaton. Javelin, played by Flula Borg, first appearance in Green Lantern Volume 2, 173 in 1984, created by Len Wein, and Dave Gibbons. Weasel, played by Sean Gunn, first appeared in Firestorm number 36 in 1985, created by Jerry Conway and Raphael Kayanen. Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, first appeared in Batman the Animated Series in 1992. Rick Flag, played by Joel Kinnaman, first appeared in The Brave and the Bold number 25, September of 1959, created by Robert Kanigher and Ross Andru. So that's Team Distraction, and we kind of start with them in the prison in Belle Reve, where Savant is throwing his ball as we hear Folsom Prison Blues, and he kills a bird with his ball as he's bouncing it off the wall. He's interrupted and put onto Task Force X, which is also known as the Suicide Squad. So we're introduced to the concept and the team here. We get him getting the bomb implanted into his neck. We get him being introduced to Rick Flag, and this is where we kind of meet all of this first members of the team here before they go off to Corto Maltese. What was your impression of the characters we had here? Did you know that these were going to die pretty much immediately here, or were you like, was that spoiled for you, or from seeing posters that you didn't see Michael Rooker on or something?
So the only people I had a good idea that would survive were Harley Quinn, Colonel Flag, and Amanda Waller, and Boomerang. I thought Boomerang was gonna make it because he was a carryover from the first one,
right? Right.
I'm gonna say this. Not really a big fan of Pete Davidson. I don't know, the dude just annoys me. I can't really explain it. It's not even counting the fact that somehow he keeps attracting incredibly beautiful women by his side. Literally, that's secondary. Just like, I've listened to some of his stand up, and it's just really annoying. I don't get it. He's not for me. That's fine. Not for me. I get it, but he just annoys me. So the fact that Pete Davidson lasted all like 2 minutes and 26 seconds, I was okay with. I was just like, you know what? I'm fine with that. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't really care for the dude himself. I know he's got some issues he's working through, personal wise, and I wish no ill will on him. I want him to get help with those mental issues, but just I don't know. The dude just annoys me. As far as the rest of the guys, I didn't know if they made him up just for this movie.
Right.
Once again,
that's why I felt like I would say at the top on who they were and how long they've been around. Yeah.
And I'm there with one of the other people in the room where they're like, did anybody bother to check if the weasel can swim? You're doing an air insertion. You're doing an air insertion into the ocean, you might want to check if the people you're dropping into the middle of the ocean need floaties. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest with you, I would need floaties. Like I can't really swim, so I mean, I'm a human, so I can kind of let you know about that. When
Yeah,
they go
you
over the
can speak
plan,
up.
like, hey, we're gonna drop you in the ocean. Whoa, hey, yeah, you with your hand up. Hey, I can't swim, so I don't know how we're gonna work this. I don't
So I
know
need
how
to
the
get dropped off on the beach.
yeah. As far as the weasel, I don't know how he communicates or what he did, what his plan was. I don't know. TDK, the detachable kid. Until you just said that, I had no clue what the hell TDK stood for. Like the only thing I could think of was I think there was like a media company or like a tape name called TDK
Yes,
back in the
yes.
day, and I like that was the only thing I could think of. But I was just like, and then when they showed his power, I'm like, so his arm comes off and he just starts slapping people. Like I literally
Yes.
thought as I'm watching this, like they just made these people up because I knew there were other characters. Like I knew like there's like John Cena and
Yeah,
Idris
yeah.
Elba, right? And we hadn't got to them yet. Like, but I know they're
Right,
part of
right.
this crew, and I'm just like, so let me get this straight. This is like the Z level team. We got a dude who like you can take his arms off and he can slap people, and there's a weasel who can't swim who just drowned in front of everybody. I thought what's his name's superpower was the ball. I thought him throwing that ball was his
Oh, yeah, yeah.
superpower because that's the only thing they really focused on, and that's really all he did till he got his head blown off. So I was just like, what is this? Did I get bamboozled into watching this horrible movie? Like
I kind of like how they start out.
five
Yeah,
minutes
go
into
ahead.
this, I was gonna have some words with you. Like, what in the blue hell am I watching?
I kind of like how they start off kind of focusing on Michael Rooker and like you think like, oh, like if you went in not knowing anything, right? You're thinking this is the team. This is the guy. This is our main character that we're getting introduced to here. And then when he just runs off screaming cuz he's like overwhelmed with everything. It's pretty good setup by James Gunn cuz this actually shows you the bombs and how they work, and it comes back later, right, when she tries to blow up, you know, blood sport at the end. This stuff comes back, and it's a good setup to show that like this will actually happen. It's not just a threat. She will do it.
Well, yeah, in the first one, right? They
Yeah,
they explained that a little bit more. They actually went into this whole diatribe about you're being implanted with a bomb. Like they went into it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then who was the Native American guy who lasted like a minute and 28 seconds, and then he
yeah,
tried to scoot off, and then he got his head blown off in the first one, right? Um,
yeah.
so that like that was great. It was a great way to explain the gist of that because they really didn't go into as much detail in this one as they did in the first one. Like I
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
since I saw the first one, I kind of had the gist of like, okay, that's the bomb they're planning of. I'm like, I remember, okay, she can, that's in there, and if you start going off on you doing your own thing or whatever, like your head will explode. Like I knew that, but I also got to think, does the average person know that who didn't see the first one? Like anytime a sequel or something like this comes out, you have to expect that people haven't seen the first one yet. You're gonna
Right,
have
right.
a new audience, so I don't know if they explained it that well, but they
I
showed
think
it.
just show it. Yeah, I think just showing it is enough. And the guy you were talking about is Slipknot. He died in the first one.
Yeah,
Um, getting blown up by Rick Flag actually, who pulled the trigger on that one. Um,
I didn't know Rick Flag
yeah,
had been
one
around
thing
since the
I
'50s.
yeah, yeah, it's
How
pretty
is it?
funny.
How are
59.
these two movies the first time I've ever heard of the character Rick Flag? Like
I don't know, like
he could have been their answer to like Captain America,
he's
Colonel
kind
Rick
of like their Nick
Flag.
Fury, kind of a bit. But yeah,
He
yeah, yeah.
with the name Flag too. Like he could
Yeah.
like he could have that character had the potential to be a bigger.
Right, right. Um okay, so one thing I want to point out too here, when he gets his head blown off, the bird that starts eating it is the same type of bird that he killed, and it's kind of like a little poetic justice
I
there.
saw that, and like I like animals. We've talked about. I have some cats I feed and everything I get to take care
Yep,
of.
yep,
You have your dogs, right? So we both love animals. So it's always a good thing when you see in movies, like, not necessarily a good thing, but you can always tell like who to like or who not to like in a movie based on how the animals are going to react to them, right? Like Will
yep.
Smith in what was the zombie movie he did? Like,
Um, I Am Legend.
yeah, I Am Legend. Like, he took care of that dog and that puppy, right? So when that puppy got
Yeah,
bit and he had like he died, like, I cried, right? Like, horrible thing, but he had
right.
to
And
do
I
what he
haven't
had to do.
watched it since.
Pretty much, yeah.
I haven't
For many
watched it since.
reasons. But yeah, that one scene was literally heartbreaking for me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I shed tears. But when this dude decided to kill the bird, I was like, I don't like this guy, and I'm pretty sure that's why they did that. Just so
Yes,
like
yeah.
you have the impression of not to like this guy. And then when I saw the bird come back and peck some neck meat out, I was like, okay, I was happy with it.
Yes, because what happens is Blackguard is actually that's Pete Davidson's character is the one who betrayed them and actually sold them out here. And he's like, "You guys can come out now," and he still gets killed. So this was Casey probably cheering with a little fist pump when this moment happened.
So between the fact that he betrayed him when he came out, I was like, yeah, he's a douche. I would expect nothing less from Pete Davidson. Like, I would like that's exactly what I would expect from this dude. And then when he got killed, you're right. I was like, all right, I'm happy. I wasn't so mad at you anymore after that. Like, it went from what the hell did
Yeah,
Jordan make me watch to okay,
you're
I'm
like,
willing
great.
to
I have
give
to
this
watch a
more of
movie
a
with
chance.
Pete Davidson in it.
I'm willing, and a damn weasel that just drowned. And then I was like, okay, I'm willing to give this a little bit more of a chance.
Yeah, I remember being in the theater for this, and like people's reactions were pretty funny at some of this stuff happening like so quick and early in this. But right after they blow his head off, we get the opening credits and the song that's playing, um, which of course is singing about how those are people that had died, and showing all of our Suicide Squad members that have died in this, where they show them blinking red as if they've just died, and then showing what happened to their bodies. And I laugh every time with TDK though, just because it's such a silly concept. This is why James Gunn used it, I think, is like just to have fun with it in this 5 minutes that he appears. Because what good is he really, right? Like he detaches his arms. It's going to take the arms a while to get over there. Then all they can do is whatever an arm can do. So you just see him start like punching,
Yeah, slapping
and then
people.
obviously he gets shot, like the arms get shot, and he's like writhing on the ground because he feels the pain. And it's just like, of course he would be a pointless character. Like I wonder, I haven't read anything with TDK, but I really wonder,
Has anybody read
like,
anything with TDK in it? I mean,
yes, there are people that have. His other name is Arm Fall Off Boy too, actually, which is a mouthful.
I will say, uh, visually, this movie was incredibly impressive. Um,
Yeah.
I watched this on Netflix, um, and it was in HD. It was 1080p, so it looked pretty good. But this is one of those where I can imagine on the big screen or an HDR or something like that. Like, this movie would probably look just absolutely amazing.
Well, one of my favorite things that he does in this is the the transitions, right? And how
The
wherever they're
chapter, like, where it
transitioning,
breaks up in
yeah,
the chapters of,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
with smoke or flowers or whatever it is that
smoke,
they're.
the roots, right? Like the roots where
Yeah,
it's like meanwhile Harley, and you see like them going down
yeah,
the roots, the Operation Jotunheim, and then the smoke blows out, and it's Operation Harley when they decide to
yeah.
go save her instead. Like, man, like James Gunn was just on top of it in this movie when it comes to that. I really like. I was in the theater watching that, and I was like, I love these transitions. Like, they're beautiful to look at. They're cool. Uh, just really style, like a lot of style, and I feel like he was able to let out some of that style a bit more due to the rated R in this. He didn't have to hold back as much, but
Okay.
um
Speaking of the rated R,
yeah,
um, this was I did not know this was rated R. I didn't look up anything about this movie before I started watching it, so I
I
had no
feel like
clue
I
it was
should have
rated
said
R.
that.
We'll get to what you should have said in a moment. Um, the language didn't bother me. I'm fine with that. The level
Yeah,
of violence didn't bother me. I'm fine with that. But once again, it just took me by shock because I'm thinking this is a comic book movie, so I was thinking this was like a PG-13 maybe rated
right, right.
somewhere in there, right? I didn't mind the blood or the violence, like I can accept that, but it was just it was more than I anticipated, so I found out it was rated R. But there's got to be warning
Yeah.
if there's going to be a penis shown in the movie. That's all I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah, my bad. My
Like,
bad.
not even necessarily you. You should have warned me, but like, just in general, like, there's got to be a warning on any movie if there's going to be a random penis shown in the movie. Because
Like in the rated R description, it says like hangs dong or something, and you're like, oh okay.
okay, look. So I know, like, I know with, like, if you look up ratings, it'll show, like, nudity, excessive nudity, strong sexual content,
And you don't know
parasite,
what type of nudity. Yeah.
any number of things, right? Like, there's ways to look down where you can find out almost exactly what it is or whatever. I'm just saying, like, even in the ratings thing, like, if there's gonna be any sort of genitalia exposed like that, you just gotta let me know. Like, this is gonna sound silly, but when I saw it, I had to rewind it because I'm like, did I just see what I think I saw? Because I'm like, there's no way I just saw this in a comic book movie. And then I
Yes.
saw it and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, no, I did see this in a comic book movie.
They
Sure,
really
okay.
they really let him do whatever the hell he wanted in this movie. They really wanted him to come over from Disney,
They must
and
have been dead. They had to be desperate.
they
Like,
were.
not
They
only
were.
that, but like usually censors, like, when it goes to the MPAA, and I know I've heard and read a lot of things. There's a lot of negotiation of like, okay, you got to cut these
Yeah.
things, and sometimes it's like, okay, sometimes like they've even said like they'll take a movie back. Sometimes they won't cut anything and send it back, and then all of a
And
sudden
get
it's
a
good to
different
go.
rating. Yeah.
Or but like there's negotiations like, okay, I'll cut this and this, but this is essential to the story, blah blah. So I know there's a lot of different things. Say all that to say, I don't know if dude's penis was essential to the story.
It was.
Like, to see the dude just Donald ducking out of a shack like that, I was just like, what is going on here? Like,
Yes.
okay,
We'll get to that scene. We'll get to that scene and talk a little bit more about that and his penis as we get there. But um yeah, so we get the opening theme and the credits. And one thing I also like here is the people in the office in the headquarters who are betting on this stuff. I think that is such a
that's gonna happen. If
that
if
would happen. Exactly,
if they
exactly.
if
I love how too they're like, "Hey, have Harley ever worked with this person before?" And they're like, "I don't know." And they're like, just talking about that stuff is really really fun.
just like when we watched Rat Race and we were talking about how,
Yes.
like, okay, if we're up there, like, who are we betting on? And we're trying to figure it out. Like, okay, anybody who's part of a team or a couple, like, I'm disqualifying them automatically because it's too much of an issue. And then we're trying to break it down who we're going to figure. I don't know if they were trying to figure out like how quick each and every one of them was going to go or if they were going to make it, but I can absolutely see because this obviously wasn't their first mission. They obviously had it.
Right,
There
right.
was at least one more that we know of before this, right? And something tells me in the time between the original and this, in their world, there probably was several. There probably were
A
several
few.
missions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this ain't the first time, and they have a good gist on, and they know what they're doing as far as like, oh, these people haven't worked together. I can imagine the level of betting and money that's exchanging hands for this. I'm
Yeah, so this
honestly,
opening montage, you have them like paying each other and all that kind of stuff. It's really funny.
yeah, I got 20 on this. I'm surprised Amanda Waller wasn't involved in it.
Yeah, she kind of looks down on it a bit. They have to do it behind her back, it seems.
she's the one in charge. She probably can't sanction stuff like that. I get it. It's an off the
Yeah,
books
yeah.
government project, but it's still like a government thing, and that's probably frowned upon. I get it.
So we get this reveal here when the Suicide Squad logo comes up that Team 1 was the distraction, and she's like, all right, Team 2, you are clear. And Team 2 includes Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, character name Robert Dubois, first appeared in Superman Volume 2, Issue 4 in 1987, created by John Byrne. King Shark, played by Sylvester Stallone. His character name is Nanawe. First appeared in a cameo in Superboy Volume 4, Issue 0 in 1994. And then also made his full appearance in Superboy Volume 4, number 9 in 1994 as well. And he was created by Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett. Polka Dot Man, played by David Dastmalchian. His character name is Abner Krill. First appeared Detective Comics number 300, February 1962. He was a Batman villain, created by Bill Finger and Sheldon Moldoff. Ratcatcher 2, played by Daniela Melchior. Her character name is Cleo Cazo. First appeared in Detective Comics 585 in 1988. Created by Alan Grant, John Wagner, and Norm Brayfogle. Peacemaker, played by John Cena. His character's name is Christopher Smith. First appeared in Fightin' 5 number 40 in November 1966. Created by Joe Gill and Pat Boyette. The Thinker is going to appear later, so we'll get to him then, but I had him as grouped into Team 2. And the Suicide Squad headquarters is Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. First appeared in Legends number 1, November 1986, created by John Ostrander, Len Wein, and John Byrne. Johnny Conamos, played by Steve Agee. First appeared Suicide Squad issue number 1, 1987, created by John Ostrander and Luke McDonnell. Amelia Harcourt, played by James Gunn's wife, Jennifer Holland. First appeared Suicide Squad Volume 5, number 2, in November of 2016, created by Rob Williams and Jim Lee. And Flo Crawley, this is the woman that's going to hit Amanda Waller over the head with the golf club later. Her character was played by Tinashe Kajise. First appeared to Suicide Squad issue 1, 1987, created by John Ostrander and Luke McDonnell. So that catches us up on all of the characters that you mentioned earlier, the 50-some characters in this movie.
Okay. So before we get started with the rest of the story, Idris Elba is always a great actor, so good to see him doing something like this.
Yes.
John
Apparently,
Cena
also, by the way, real quick, Elba's character, there was rumors that this would have been Will Smith's character if they could have got Will Smith back. And that instead of recasting Will Smith, they just made it Bloodsport, which is almost the same exact character as Deadshot, with like being able to shoot.
I can see that. I can see Deadshot being slid into I can. Yeah,
they both had young
see
daughters, like it makes sense.
Yeah, okay, we can't get him. He doesn't want to come back, or we just can't get him. Slide someone else in there, tweak the story a little bit. Same thing. John Cena was a little bit better in this than I anticipated. Obviously, I'm a big wrestling fan. The Royal Rumble's going on right now as we speak, so I'm going to check on that in a little bit, see who won.
Nice. I appreciate it. You taking the time out to not to do the podcast.
I don't know why my brain won't accept this. I will 100% say this makes zero sense to me, that my brain will not. My brain is willing to accept a starfish from another world, okay, that spits out baby starfish that can take over human beings, right, and gets bigger as it takes over other things. My brain is willing to accept that. But my brain is struggling to accept King Goddamn Shark. I cannot explain it. Don't know why. While I'm watching this movie and I'm looking stuff up, I'm reading up a little bit on him, and eventually I found out like he has both gills and lungs, so that's how he can survive on land. Because at one point later in the movie, I'm like, wait a damn minute, how is he even on land? Like,
Yeah.
what the, like, literally, my brain just shut down at this massive shark. The only way I lightened up to him is two words: fake mustache.
Nom nom.
Fake
Oh, the
mustache.
fake mustache
When he said fake mustache, and then he went,
with
I,
the
I, I, I
finger.
was like, okay, yeah. I was like, okay, you know what? I have no choice but to accept you now. But my brain still struggled the rest of the movie. And then, like, 20 minutes later, when I
Man,
see him running, I'm like, wait a minute. How the hell
how's he
is he even?
breathing?
What is going on here? My brain still can't, like I said, I can accept the intergalactic starfish. Sure, why not? I can accept the weasel, for Christ's sake, but king shark, my brain just said, I've had enough. Like, I don't know what's going on here, but I want no part of that.
By
Until
the
he
way,
said,
when they
fake
introduce
mustache.
Weasel and they say like, "Oh no," Rick Flagg's like, "No, he's not a danger to anyone." I mean, he did kill like 27 kids, but it's like, okay. Um, no, King Shark. Yeah, no, I really like him in this movie.
How the hell did
He
they get
is
Sylvester Stallone?
well, he's in Guardians, so James Gunn has a connection with him. And actually,
You know what? That's right. I forgot he was in Guardians.
James Gunn said he's one of the only people to have who like one of the first people that checked in on him when he got fired from Disney too. Stallone
I
was like, "Hey, how are you doing? This is ridiculous."
I forgot he was in Guardians, and I mean, look, that voice was perfect for King Shark, I guess, because I can't imagine what his
Yeah,
voice would sound like any other
I
way.
couldn't even I couldn't even notice it was him really. If you didn't tell me it was Stallone, I don't think it like sounds obviously like Stallone. You know?
No, but once I found out, I was like, okay, I kind of
Yeah.
hear it now. Well, I can just imagine that phone call. Hey, how you doing? You okay? Glad you called, because I got the role for you.
And all he did was
Two
voiceover.
words.
The person that played him on set was Steve Agee, who plays
Yeah,
Johnny Economos.
I got the
Yeah.
word. I got a role for you. Two words. Fake mustache.
Yeah.
I even paused the movie at one point and before he did it and Googled, like, I have to see if they did this. Is there a picture of King Shark with a fake mustache? I had to do a Google image search on that because I was like, that is just so utterly ridiculous. Don't tell me that they did that in this movie. And they did. And I was like, okay. Like, you won me over at fake mustache. Let's go on this ride.
Now, you said John Cena. You are a wrestling fan. Were you a fan of Cena when in his wrestling days? I know he comes back sometimes, like during the strikes and stuff. But
I was a fan when he first started and when he first got big. Like a lot of other people, I kind of lost fandom of him because he was on top for so long,
mm-hmm.
and there were things that wrestling fans would say he would go Super Cena on people. Where so wrestling match, you have the babyface, and he was a good guy for so long. Babyface is a good guy, heel's the bad guy, right? And in a wrestling match, at some point, like the babyface start off strong, the heel takes over, right, and he commences to beating the babyface down. And then at some point, there's what's called the comeback, right, where the babyface comes back, and then eventually leads to your finish. And uh, you know, that's when he would go Super Cena. He had his quote unquote 5 moves of doom, right? Which everyone could once you saw it coming, is like, okay, here it comes. Like, you know, the 5 knuckle shuffle, this, that, the other thing, blah blah blah. But then as you read more into it, I became a fan of his personally because do you know how many wishes this dude has granted from the Make a Wish Foundation?
I've seen the number before, but he's like the number one guy, isn't he?
By a
That grants
long
him.
shot.
Yeah.
Since 2002, this was as of September 27th, 2022. He holds the title for granting the most Make-A-Wishes with 650 since 2002. That was as of 2 years ago. Like, he's one of those guys who the kids from Make-A-Wish, if they request to see him, he goes out of his way.
Yeah.
And there's even been things where, you know, there are these kids who have these horrible illnesses and things, and there's one thing that like I saw on the WWE Network where there's these families and these kids that talk about what John Cena has meant to them as far as he's got this thing never give up, all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids would use that, and that kind of helps a lot of them get better. And they're telling their story. They don't know, like, they think they're just doing an interview for like Make a Wish Foundation or for like WWE.
Yeah, they don't know
They
he's
don't
there.
know he's behind a wall. And it's weird because he breaks down crying seeing these stories, like, because he doesn't realize like how much he means to some of these kids and these families. And it's one of those things, like, I didn't appreciate him as a wrestler totally. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciated what he did as a human being, as a person. But then after he left to go make movies, the business kind of started going down, and like viewership levels went down and a bunch of other things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it spikes when someone like him or The Rock comes back. And then you truly realize how big of a star he was and how much he meant to the business. There's even an issue where he fought The Rock at WrestleMania 2 years in a row, including the first year he did it. The first time he fought him, they had some very personal issues between the two of them because Cena went off script in their promos in the ring one time. And Cena talked about, at the time, Cena was all in at WWE. He was there 100% of the time. He talked about how he thought it was disrespectful that The Rock would take these long breaks and go make movies and come
Mm.
back. But he talked about how he was there every day and so on and so forth. And it took him to leave himself and go start making movies and TV shows for him to realize. The way he talked about it was he didn't realize, like, The Rock can't just take 6 months off to come back and wrestle for 6 months, right? Because he has these studio projects lined up and these movies lined up,
Right.
and then they start hiring cast and crews, and they need to be ready by certain dates because they're going to fly to Fiji to start filming this stuff like July 1st. So, they got to get the paperwork, passports, and visas, and, all this other stuff. But if he goes out there and wrestles and gets hurt, there's hundreds of people out of a job.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, it pauses everything, and they can't necessarily be hired on another crew because, as these other movies have already filled their crews based on people they know, and like, you can't come
Yep.
in and be a cameraman or a grip in the middle of another movie. They already have their crew, and I don't think the union allows it, right? Unless people get hurt or sick, like, but
Right. Right. Because they want to
so
protect the jobs of the people that are
yeah,
there. Yeah.
so like it took John Cena to go away, and for him to start making these movies, to realize that there are literally hundreds of people who are depending on him, and if he gets hurt because he's still wrestling, these other people are out of a job, and now what are they going to do until they can latch on for another movie that's being picked up? And he's like, they've made up. He since apologized to him because he's like, I didn't realize it was more than just. He thought it was just The Rock's ego of like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go make movies. Now I'm gonna come back and wrestle and go make movies and come back. But he realized, like, it's more than ego. Like, these other people are depending on you wholeheartedly. And he even, like, he came back earlier this year during the actor strike, but he also had to like check with the union and get permission because he wasn't sure like how long it's gonna last. You know what I'm saying? And even if all of
Yeah.
a sudden, once the strike ends, he doesn't know how long it's going to be before they can start picking back up film. But he also has to make sure, like, hey, like, if I go over here, I got to at least be able to finish these storylines out in the ring or whatever. So it might be a couple weeks, a month, whatever the case is. But he also got to make sure he doesn't get hurt. But he's also got to be able to make sure, like, he's ready to go back. So he kind of had to work within the union and figure some stuff out when he came back earlier this year to figure out how he was going to be able to do that. And he pulled it off, but it was still, it wasn't. You realize it was a lot more to it. So now when he comes back, it's a lot more special to see him come back.
Mm. Yeah. So I was never a wrestling guy. So like I had only seen him on like promos and like people in my school that had like John Cena shirts on, stuff like that. So I didn't really know him until I guess this is actually the first thing I saw him in. Because I'm looking at his things. I haven't seen him in the Marine. I haven't seen Trainwreck. I haven't seen Blockers. I haven't seen
I think I saw the
Bumblebee.
Marine because he was still in WWE at the time, and they were like, I think it was a WWE Studios film, and they were
Oh yes, it
promoting
was.
hell.
Yeah.
They were trying to get a film studio off the ground that never really got off the ground. They made some movies. They made a bunch. I think they made like 5 or 6 sequels to that were like direct to video. I think it goes up to like Marine 5 or Marine 6, and they had other people filling in for it. But I saw that. I didn't see any of the other stuff. I know he did a movie with Amy Schumer that apparently did
That was Trainwreck. Yeah, apparently he did very well in that.
yeah, and that kind of started opening
That's
the
when I
door
feel
for
like
him.
I started hearing people say how good of an actor he is.
Yeah, and so the way someone explained, like if you look at it for pro wrestling, especially as these people have their characters and things, they're part actor, parts like, but they're actors who kind of do their own stunts. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to denigrate wrestling by saying it's all stunts, but like they do all the physical work in it. There's no stuntman
Right,
that
right.
comes in for some of this. But yeah, he picked up and he realized like it when in wrestling when what they do is called bumping, right? So when they get slammed to the mat, it's called a bump. As one wrestler put it, you only have so many bumps in your bump card. Every wrestler is different, right? Some have more, some have less. But at some point, it catches up with you, just like a football player, basketball player. At some point,
Right, right.
age and everything else catches up with you. You're not as fast, you're not as good, and it comes a time to step away and retire. So but he was able to find a second career, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, because for me, when I was seeing this movie, he was kind of the standout actor wise. Like, I wasn't expecting much from him, and I thought he absolutely nailed his role, not just with the comedy stuff, right? The scene when he shows up in his underwear and Bloodsport says he's in his tighty whities. I love his delivery of that's racist. And then some of the serious stuff when we get to him and Rick Flag later on and stuff like that. Like he really surprised me, and he surprised James Gunn too, I think, because James Gunn said he comes out with the Peacemaker series after this, and he had no plans for that until he was filming this movie and John Cena just owned the role so well. He said, "Oh, I can do more with this guy." And that's when they added on the post-credit scene.
So I haven't watched the series, the Peacemaker series, because I wasn't really interested in it. Because I'm like, I hadn't seen this movie yet, right? And
Right, right.
I was like, I don't really know if I want to see John Cena, as he called him. And what did he call him? What did he call his helmet there? Like a
Like
hubcap or something.
a toilet.
The
Somebody
toilet
called it a
seat.
toilet
Yeah,
bowl or toilet seat
toilet
or something.
bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. What did you think of the Peacemaker series? I saw it like it was actually got pretty decent reviews at least. So
I'm not gonna lie, it is amazing. I was really shocked. So as a person that loves this movie, when they announced a Peacemaker series, I was like, do I really need to see that? And then like all the lead
okay,
up to it and
that
the
was the same thing I
trailers.
was thinking. Like, do we
Yeah,
need that?
the
That's what I thought
the
about this
lead
movie.
up
Do we really need this?
the lead up to it, I was like seeing trailers and I was like, I don't know, man. I trust James Gunn, but I was like, I don't know. I'll give it a shot. And then it releases, and I watched like I think they released the first 2 or 3 in one week, and I was like, holy shit, like that was good. Like I was like, I didn't think I would need a Peacemaker show, and um, they're making a season 2 because it was very popular on Max, but um, it was just it shocked me. I will say that it shocked me, and it shows off way more of John Cena's range too. Like again, he just really shocked me in that. Because in this movie, I hate John Cena, not the actor, but his character,
He's
because
easy to
he's
hate in
like,
this. Yeah.
yes, he is easy to hate in this movie because of not having the morals that Rick Flag has. When we get to that battle, it's he is like he says he will he loves peace so much he will kill as many men, women, and children he needs to bring peace. And it's just this very uh what is it like like a paradox, right? Of you can't be a lover of peace and also be so okay with killing everybody. I mean, he loves peace so much he will eat a whole bunch of dicks on this island just to bring peace.
Yeah, I was just like, what? Like, I didn't really need to know that, but okay, sure.
But yeah, so he really shocked me in this. Uh, yeah, I mean, so he was just great, and it was somebody I loved to hate in this show, in this movie. Like, it was like that type of villain that he's charismatic enough in the role that you enjoy watching him, but you also are like, man, I just like I love what he's doing with the role, but I hate his character right now, and I like those type of characters in anything. So we're introduced to these characters, we because they go back in time, right? We see him on the beach, then we go back in time. We see Dubois getting recruited into the Suicide Squad. We see his daughter had got caught shoplifting a watch that she can watch TV on, and that really befuddles Dubois. But we also learn he's in here for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet, which I thought was a really, really nice touch, a little reference to, um, just having run-ins with the Justice League without having to see them. And then having his daughter like be able to get arrested, he joins. That's the one thing that can make him join. He's been saying to Waller, "I am not going to join your Suicide Squad." She found a way
Well,
to get
it
him to
wasn't
join.
just the fact that his daughter got arrested. It was she was
She was pretty much
ruthless.
saying she would influence how long she could go away and stuff. It was like really dirty
It wasn't
politics.
just that. It was so realistically, Louisiana's prisons are not the best. I think the most dangerous prison in the country is in Louisiana. Um, and in a lot of those states, when you are over a certain age, you can be tried as an adult. And it seems that people of color seem to get tried as an adult a lot more than other people in some of these states. So, yeah, I'm sure at her position, she could make a couple of calls, especially to whatever judge, because a lot of these judges are corrupt in general. Well, yeah, she would be looked at as an adult, and then she would be sent to the very same prison her dad is in. She brought up
Yeah.
the fact that they have a high mortality rate, which means it's a
Mm-hmm.
very dangerous prison and people get killed there all the time. I like uh, the conversation she and John have later, where John brings up like all that stuff you said about his daughter. Are you really capable of doing that? She says, John, you have no
Yeah.
idea what I'm capable of. I would
This is
love.
Waller, by the way. This is exactly how she is in the comics. She is Viola Davis plays her so well too. It is like it is scary. You have no clue what she's capable of because you're like John wants to think he's not working for a monster who will do that just to get this guy onto the team,
But
but
you also
she
have to
will.
think her entire project is completely off the books.
Yeah.
Like there's no paper trail on this project. Like there's nothing. This is probably not an officially sanctioned government project. It's one of those things where uh, this will tie back to how we started this all with Independence Day, where Judd Hirsch was like, "Do you
Yeah.
really think they paid $20,000 for a hammer, $30,000 for a toilet seat?" Right? This is one of those black budget projects where like they get money from various slush funds or other things that they take over, and it's completely off the books. There's no inspector general that's going to come in and look at how they're running things and tell them they have to clean up certain things. Like their job is to just get results, and it doesn't matter how they go about doing it. Like they have certain missions they have to accomplish. They need to get results on those missions. So whatever it is, get results. Figure it out. So I would I'd be interested to see, and I don't think we ever will, of how maybe Amanda Waller came into that position and what it actually entails, and some other things that she does, because I think that character is fascinating. Um,
Yeah.
and we saw a little bit of it in the first one, where I forget who she's having dinner with. Um, you know, and it's
Hmm.
all over the trailers where she talks about, like, imagine, Superman just decides to basically go evil, and all of a sudden decides to come crashing into the White House. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, do we have anything? How do we prepare for that? Like, going back to Dubois, how the hell did he get kryptonite for a bullet? Where he shot Superman with a bullet in this one, and that's how he ends up
Yeah.
in jail. Like, I want to know more about that. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those little nuggets that you're like, oh, I wish I could have seen that. I wish I could have seen that.
Has there been any talk of Idris Elba doing any more of that character, or was that probably just a one off for him?
I think it's dead now. I don't know because of the reboot. I don't really know what the plans are
Oh,
going
that's
forward. So
right.
they're still doing
I
Peacemaker
forgot
season two.
there's a reboot. I
They
forgot
are
about
doing
that.
Waller, a series on Waller too, that is going to be part of the DCU with Viola Davis returning, but it's probably going to be on a fresh on the fresh continuity. But um, that's supposed to start filming this year at some point, but we don't really know much about what that's about or anything. But it was in the announcement that James Gunn made when he had his plan for Chapter One of the new DCU. So we're introduced to Peacemaker, and we get the where she says almost the same exact thing she says about Dubois, and Dubois' like, "Hey, that's what you said about me. He does everything I do," and then John Cena says, "But better." And this is a meme. This I know we were going to get to this at one point. If there's any memes, this is the only meme I can think of. I've seen this quite a bit where people will put other people's like faces over top of Elba's and John Cena's for like, oh, they do the same thing I do, but better. Like that. That's the only meme I think I can see from this that I've seen. Um, we get introduced to King Shark. We get
There needs
introduced
to be a
to
damn meme with King Shark and his fake mustache. How is that not a meme?
yeah. We get Ratcatcher 2, and I love Peacemaker's response of what we couldn't afford Peacemaker 1. I mean, not Peacemaker, Ratcatcher
Ratcatcher
1.
one. Okay, I'm gonna spoil this now. My absolute favorite thing in this entire movie, for whatever reason, Sebastian Norat. I can't
I love
explain it.
Sebastian 2. He's
I
so cute.
don't know. I don't know why. Is that rat waving at me? I think he is. I
Why?
don't
He's
know why.
friendly.
Yeah, and I went down a rabbit hole of Sebastian Rat while I'm watching this. Like, I need to know more about this dude. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me, but I love Sebastian Rat.
Yeah, I love Sebastian too. Sebastian is great. And yeah, we'll talk about it when we get to the end there. But we get Ratcatcher 2. Ratcatcher 1 was her dad. We get more of that backstory later. And then we get introduced to Polka Dot Man, where Peacemaker says, what, he throws polka dots at people? And then Waller doesn't respond. It's like, yeah, I guess that's what he does.
This seemed like another villain when I first heard it, and when that line came out, I'm like, they literally just made this dude up for this story. I was
No,
like, there's
classic Batman
no
villain.
way.
I knew of him. I knew of him before this, but I
I,
did.
look, you went through his character story. Said he was from the
Yes.
50s or something. Like, he's an old dude. His character's
Yeah.
old. I get it now, but I was like, okay, this is like, to me, this seemed like either they were drunk at a bar, or they were like, someone made a bet of like, I bet you can't make a character, and they put a bunch of stuff in a hat and was
Yeah.
like, polka dots. Can you make a hero or villain out of polka dots? And someone was like, I'll be damned if I don't. And there was like $100 bet, and they made polka dot.
To be fair, I think that is most of the 50s and 60s villains that they came out with. Have
In the
you
50s
heard
and
of
60s, there was a lot of drugs going around. So
Condiment King? That's a Batman villain.
if you
Condiment
say
King.
anything like that again, I'm turning this off and I'm walking away.
Kite Man.
Does Condiment King spread ketchup and mustard out of his hands?
Yes, he does.
You've got to be kidding me, dude.
I'm not kidding. Let me find a picture of him. Hold on.
There's no way that's real.
This is the let me find the comic book interpretation of him, because the cartoon one is really comical, but here is a more down to earth version, I guess. Here you go. See, he's got relish. Well, now it's loading. All right, so he's got relish in the green, mustard in the red, yellow, and ketchup in the red, and he's got this gun where he sprays out condiments.
Now, what kind of drugs were these people on?
He came out in '66, so I don't know. It was probably some good stuff though. Can't wait till he shows up in something at some point. Anyway,
I swear to anything and everything that's holy. If I'm watching one of these shows, and I see a dude with ketchup and mustard on his belt as one of these villains, I'm done. Like this will be my cheating moment of what is that dot right there? That broke me. I'm done.
That's funny. So they get they also get Calendar Man too. Calendar Man is the one that's played by Sean Gunn, and he's yelling at Polka Dot Man.
I saw
he's
it,
got
but
like,
I missed him. I don't know what happened. Like,
yeah, he's got like the months written on his head. Okay, so they're receiving a briefing on the plan, and this is where they're told about Project Starfish. This is where, of course, Peacemaker asks about Starfish being a slang for butthole. I'd never heard that before,
no,
but he wanted to
I've
make
heard
sure it
that.
had nothing to do with it. You had? Okay.
I've heard that term
It's a
used
real
before.
thing.
Yeah, no, that is real. That's real.
So then they arrive on the island, and we're caught up to where we were at the beginning. We flash to Harley receiving the javelin from Javelin. She gets captured here. Rick Flag has escaped and is seemingly captured, but he's taken with the resistance. And then Team 2 stops to camp. And this is where we see, Polka Dot Man expel his polka dots for the first time. This is where King Shark tries to eat Ratcatcher. We get the Tidy Whitey scene.
Nom nom.
And Ratcatcher becomes friends with King Shark, so that way he won't eat them. And then they're told their new plan is to go get Rick Flag. And Waller says, from hostiles. So this is all on Waller, by the way. When Peacemaker and Bloodsport have this battle of the kills here as they go through the camp.
Look, in all fairness, now they did have the technology; they were able to see a lot of stuff through satellite vision and stuff, but it's not unreasonable to think that Flag got captured by hostile forces in that situation. Like, unless you specifically knew it was like the resistance to the government, which you just got ambushed because Pete Davidson's dumbass just sold you out, right, into a hostile force. So is it unrealistic to think that the remains of that hostile force captured Colonel Flag? No, it's not. So yes, that is on.
I do think Waller knows, though, because I think when we find out that she's fine with leaving the government as it is, taken over by the people that take it over, I feel like she didn't care if the resistance got wiped out, and I think she was probably fine with that. So I think her whole thing is like, all right, just get Flag no matter what, so that way we can move on with the mission. But this scene, this is one that had the theater howling at this battle of the kills, when you have them just trying to one up each other with all of their kills as they're going through, and then the reveal, of course, that Rick Flag is not captured by hostiles, and then them asking like, why didn't my men alert me? And then like, we didn't see anybody out here. Um, but we learn a lot here. So we learn that Polka Dot Man has to image stuff as his mom because of some mommy issues he has in order for him to destroy it.
That was creepy
So he
beyond.
he mentions this. He's the one that spills the beans. He's like, well, they turned into my mom and I had to kill them. And then King Shark coughing up the finger. We get King Shark eating a person. We get the guy hanging dong, like you said, get shot immediately. And you know, the no one likes a show off, and then Peacemaker saying they do if what they're showing off is dope as fuck, and then Dubois being like, fuck, that's true.
Yeah, he even asked him that. Yeah.
What were your thoughts here as they're killing all these people? I'm guessing you did not know that these were friendly people as well, right?
No, I had no clue they were part of like the resistance fighters, like that they just wiped out half the resistance fighters for the island. But it was definitely entertaining. Seeing everything go through. I think at one point we even saw Ratcatcher 2 and Sebastian and the rats come out for some people and things, and I was just like,
Yes, she had the rats in like this bag of stuff that the guy was going to get, and then the bag opened up and all the rats popped out. It was pretty cool.
so I mean, they started getting very creative with how they were killing people, and I can imagine,
Shooting the fan into the bathtub and like
yeah, when you're
stuff like
trying to
that.
make
Yeah.
this and you're like, okay, these two have to start one upping each other. Like, how do you come up with these various kills that they're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
But it was definitely entertaining, for sure.
Yeah. This was a scene that I just loved in the theater, and it seemed like a lot of people were having fun with it. So they reveal that Flag was not captured and they killed all of the rebellion. They meet the rebellion leader takes them to go meet Milton, who is driving the van for them uh to take them to the bar where the thinker hangs out. So Milton hangs back with King Shark at the van while everybody else goes gets a drink.
The whole Milton thing, and it comes up later. I just,
Yeah.
uh, and this is where they start coming up with a plan where they have to go into the nudie bar, and that's where King Shark comes up with his whole
This
how
was
do
the
you plan
first
on
time I
getting there?
noticed they showed boobs in this movie, actually. You know that? I
Yeah,
didn't
it was
I
just like
never
one
saw it the
quick.
first few times.
It was just like one quick shot, but I think they
Two.
had to.
There's one in the balcony when they're first arriving to the bar, and then there's one when they're running out the back.
I think
But
they
that was
had
the
to
first time
show
I
it.
noticed either.
They had to show it considering they showed unsanctioned penis earlier in the movie. They have to
Yeah.
balance it out.
There's the balance.
But yeah, this is where they're like, how do you, like you're gonna have to stay in the van. How do you plan on
Yeah,
getting
the
in
fake mustache.
disguise? What kind of disguise can you wear? Fake mustache, and that's where I lost it. That's where I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but we're gonna go on this adventure, and we'll
And how
see
they
where it
take it
leads.
so seriously too. Like Dubois, like you look like an idiot. Like I can tell it's you. You don't look any different.
Okay, at this point, what can you really do or say? You had a dude who's a goddamn shark who just said he's gonna put on a fake mustache to be to to wear as a disguise. Like, okay, I know you're a baseball fan, right? You know what that
Yes.
reminds
Yeah.
me of? You know what I'm gonna say, right?
Oh yes,
Bobby
yes. When the
Valentine with the New
manager
York
Bobby
Mets
Valentine
gets ejected from the game and came out wearing the
comes back
Groucho
in with the
Marx,
mustache.
the mustache and the nose and the glasses. And it was the most ridiculous thing anybody's ever seen. And he got fined, and he might even got suspended for it. But I gotta give him credit for trying, because I'm like, what are they really gonna do?
Yeah, yeah. So they're in the bar. This is and again, this is where I'm conflicted with Peacemaker at times, right? Because they all get drinks and then they didn't bring one for Sebastian. He's like, "You forgot the rat." And then the waitress brings one over. I was like, "Good looking out, Peacemaker." Little did I know going forward. But
I can't believe they also got Doctor Who to appear in this movie.
yeah, Peter Capaldi, yeah, as the Thinker. Before we get to him, though, we flash back to Harley, who is captured and is brought towards the Presidente, who wants to marry her because apparently the people of Corto Maltese love Harley Quinn.
Who doesn't love
So they
Harley
have
Quinn?
they have sex. Apparently, he's got a monster between the legs, as what
Apparently,
Harley says.
apparently, this whole island does. Like Jesus.
And then he starts talking about his plan and about killing kids and all this kind of stuff. And Harley shoots him, says he's got a bunch of red flags.
When Harley
And she's
Quinn tells
promised
you,
herself.
when Harley Quinn
Yeah, go
tells
ahead.
you have red flags, there's something wrong. I know
She's
she's a
like, she made a
licensed
promise to
therapist. Yeah.
herself to like not deal with that anymore. She's obviously referring to Joker and some of the
Yeah.
previous relationships she had. So that was fun, and then she gets captured again here and is going to be questioned by the person that takes over as Presidente afterwards. So then we flash back over to Milton as everybody is saying to they know they're looking out for some Americans. So now they're sending the military to look for Americans anywhere in town. And of course, they're showing up at the bar. At the same time, the Thinker shows up, played by Peter Capaldi. And I guess I can share his stuff. Gaius Greaves. First appearance of a Thinker was All Flash number 12, 1943. But the one that this version is based off of an unknown character. Like, he's still the Thinker, but his name was not Gaius Greaves. But that one, the look of this with the thing sticking out, I've said, is from Suicide Squad Volume 4, number 24 of December 2013, created by Matt Kind and Patrick Zerker. So as you can see, James Gunn, and he says this all the time, he reads old comics and he also reads a lot of new stuff. And he'll kind of mix characters from all eras, which I really enjoy from what James Gunn does here. So Dubois goes up to him, puts the gun there, and is like, "You're coming with me." But at the same time, here now, the military comes in looking for Americans. Dubois, Rick Flag, and Peacemaker end up sacrificing themselves so that way Ratcatcher and Polka Dot Man can lead Thinker out of there back to King Shark and Milton and get in the van. Oh, we also get the great scene of the dancing when Polka Dot Man is dancing and everybody turns into his mom there too. I really really like that scene. And Pom Clementif, who plays Mantis, is one of the dancers in that scene too, actually.
Really?
Yeah. She's like the one that they focus on, and she's doing like a dance when that song first starts playing, and then when he goes out to the dance floor later. Yeah, so he has some of his Guardians crew in movies.
Surprised Chris Pratt didn't
in this
make
one.
an appearance.
He says he might show up in the DC universe. He works well with him. So they capture Flag, Dubois, and Peacemaker, and they get into the truck. This is where then they're going to fight their way out of the truck. It crashes, and the van's right behind them for them to get in. But this is that cool scene where it says Operation Jotunheim and then turns into Operation Harley, as they learn in the truck that Harley is captured. All right, so they go to save Harley. Meanwhile, she saves herself in this and gets fully out of the building while she even gets into a cab when she sees Flag and Dubois start running by, and then right when they're about to launch into the room, she's like, What are you
What's up,
guys up
guys?
to?
So this is one of the more the Harley Quinn stuff is some of the more visually striking stuff. Between obviously we know
Like the
she has very pale
flowers and
skin.
stuff?
Well, yeah, with that, but before that, with the red dress, the very bright red lipstick that she had. Obviously that contrasts well with the pale skin and everything, right? But yeah, so when she won, I think there's a lot of people out there, both men and women, who would have pay anything to be that guy that got his neck broken. I think I'm one of them. Not gonna lie. Um, Margot Robbie's fantastic. Um, the two, I think, yeah, the whole thing with the flowers that she's going through, and she's just laying waste to everybody that's out there. I mean, amazingly, she manages to pick up a pair of boots that fit her because there's nothing worse than wearing a pair of boots like that are either too big or too small. It is not comfortable. You have to get some that fit. But between the dress and the boots, and then she's just laying waste to everybody. She manages to find the javelin
Javelin.
again. Yeah, and then she once again just commences to laying waste to everybody. This was also another one of those, while visually stunning, unprecedented levels of violence I was not expecting in what I thought was just a comic book movie. That
And
was
probably a surprise too that I picked it because I'm not like super into violence a lot of times, but like this movie, it's like I can easily look past it because of just the story and just like some of it's played for laughs enough that like for me, because I'm not one to like I if this was like Saw, I probably couldn't handle it just because of tone and stuff. Like
I
it's
think
like so different.
with the colors, the color palette, and everything else that made it such a comic book movie. Like it's not quite to the levels of Into the Spider Verse, where at some point you did have panels and you had pow, bam, like stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
But this comic suits are like really accurate, very vibrant.
that's the thing. The vibrant colors, the like the with the flowers, the like you said, the scene, the switching between scenes and transitions that they have. It kind of comicfied it enough to where, like you said, you can kind of almost let the levels of violence go because it does seem it's not quite Quentin Tarantino esque levels of violence. It's more
Yeah.
comic book levels of violence, even though it is still pretty gory and violent at times. But like you said, you can kind of brush past it because it is a comic book movie, and it almost seems to go with the flow of that.
It's kind of like I let it go in Deadpool too. Like it's like just totally different, for me. So it's like I don't
Well,
know. Yeah,
I think
it's
with
just different.
Deadpool, it goes so far. It's one of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
it's not. It goes so far past like this and like Quentin Tarantino levels of violence. It pushes it so far past that boundary where it just becomes ridiculous again. So you're just like,
Yes, yeah.
why not?
All right, so Harley gets out of there. She's gonna team up back with them, and this is where they bring up their plan to infiltrate Jotunheim. And they're talking with the Thinker, like you're gonna help us. If we see you do this, you die. If we see you do this, you die. And then Harley's
Which is
like, we
another
find
good
out you have
shout out.
personalized
Which is
license
a good
plates.
shout out to the original one.
Yes, yeah.
With
What with
Flag,
Joker having his?
no Flag did that speech where he got once he got
Oh no,
everybody
yeah.
together, and it was like if you disobey me, you die. They kind of went on the
I
same
thought you
thing.
meant the. Yes, when Harley mentions personalized license plates, she's referring to Joker, I believe here, because he does have one. So she's, bringing up her past here again.
She's got a
Um,
lot of trauma machines to work through.
yes, she does. And it's revealed that Project Starfish is Starro the Conqueror, which I don't believe I knew that going into this movie, that Starro was the villain. And I love it because when else were they ever going to use Starro the Conqueror? So this is the first villain the Justice League fought. His first appearance was in The Brave and the Bold number 28 in 1960. created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky. Some people were complaining, like, why is Starro in a Suicide Squad movie? Why wouldn't they get the Justice League on this? One, James Gunn wanted to do Starro. Two, they were never actually supposed to fight Starro. They were supposed to bring down the building, which I think they thought was going to bring down Starro. And three, everything happened so fast, they no way the Justice League's probably getting there in time. But anyway, I
Look,
love it because nobody else was touching that character at all except for James Gunn. Nobody would have thought to use Starro.
if you would
So I
have
like
told me, once again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. If you would have told me that's a villain they made up just for this movie, I would have bought that. I would have said that sounds like either something that somebody made up, drunk at a bar, or since you said it
yeah.
went back to the '60s, there was probably a lot of PCP that went around
Yes.
when when that character was made. Once again, I don't know why. My mind is okay with the giant starfish, but cannot grasp the king shark. I still can't explain it, but whatever, man.
Yeah. Well, we get this scene. This is one of my favorite scenes, is when we get them arriving to Jotunheim, and it is just pouring rain that they walk out there, they can't even see 5 feet in front of them. And then you get the Hey song by the Pixies going, and then them just walking in that line is awesome. And then they eventually, get close enough where they're able to start fighting fighting the military. They take them out. They get into the building and close the blast doors. There's like these doors for an emergency that they make the Thinker input. Once they're inside, some have to set the charges and some go downstairs to Project Starfish. And Peacemaker walks away from King Shark and will later sneak downstairs because he has a secret mission from Amanda Waller. Flag, Ratcatcher, and Thinker go downstairs and see Starro and the people that Starro have taken over, and they started to learn what this really was. So Starro is able to control these people from having the little starfish attach onto their faces. That's what they do in the comics as well. Flag learns that the U.S. government was part of this research, thanks to the Thinker saying that, and that their
That
whole
wouldn't
mission
surprise
here
me at
is to
all.
actually this whole mission is to get the evidence and then bring down the building so that way nobody knows about it. Now, of course, he has a conscience, so he wants to tell the media. And this is where Peacemaker appears and says he cannot let anyone get out with that information, because if people were to learn it, it would cause havoc. He doesn't want to kill Rick, but he will do what he needs to do. And right before they fight, the bombs go off and the ceiling collapses. But Casey, whose side are you on here? Rick Flag or Peacemaker's on? Should people have known about this? Is it better to just hide it away? What's your thoughts?
That is honestly that's a tough thing. So I agree with Flag in the aspect that something like this the people deserve to know. But I can also see I look at it like this. So I Soledad O'Brien, the journalist, and Rob Reiner just recently did a podcast about who killed JFK. Right? I listened to it. It was like a 12, 13 part, maybe not even that. I don't know. And obviously, the whole JFK conspiracy is a thing that goes back for many
Was
years.
it good?
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy
Okay.
it. But I also listen to like a lot of conspiracy theory stuff with some podcasts. So, but I did enjoy it. With something like that, because there's still a lot of, with the JFK case, there's still a lot of documents and stuff that are still redacted that aren't being released to the public because it's quote unquote a matter of national security. If that guy who came forward and said that the U.S. government, the military, has knowledge of aliens when he would testify before Congress last year, right? If some of these things came out to the public, there would be mass hysteria, right? Um, Once again, take it back to what started all this with Independence Day, right? If all of a sudden we look up in the sky one morning and we see that there's various alien ships all over the world that are coming in to our atmosphere, and we know we're not alone. Like, it may be the one thing in the world that can unify everybody on this planet because we know we're in trouble. But mass hysteria will ensue. Sometimes it might be better to be ignorant and not know the real truth. Like, I don't know. I I wouldn't be against if the information got put out, but I can also see the point of, like, if we don't let it get out, because like I said, can you imagine if the government tomorrow? Because one of the theories is that the CIA was involved behind JFK's assassination. That is a theory that is put out, right? Can you imagine
Right.
tomorrow what would happen to our government if everything was opened up and released, and it was stated that yes, the CIA was behind the assassination of an American president? People don't trust our government as it is right now. Can you imagine how much trust they would have? Can you imagine if they came out
Right.
tomorrow and said, yes, what happened in Roswell was not a weather balloon. We actually did come across this crashed alien craft. And we've been using that technology for the last 50 or 60 years. Can you imagine the chaos that would ensue? I don't know if we're really ready for something like that. Like, it would be a nightmare.
And when you have this, right, like, it is both. It's an alien, and it's also the government was experimenting on children with that alien. And it's like, how could I ever trust?
Look,
It would really create some distrust in the government when and like you said, they already distrust the government. So
look at the Tuskegee experiment. They infected hundreds of black people with syphilis
yeah,
and let them go untreated for years just because they wanted to see what the effects were, and let it go. And it didn't come out until like the 70s. I mean, they ruined some of these people's lives just because
right.
they wanted to see what could happen. Uh, I can't remember the name of it. Where they infected people with they gave people LSD. Um, that was a real thing. It's rumored that maybe Ted Kaczynski was actually part of that because he was at Harvard at the time where that experimentation was going on. I don't know why I can't remember it, but they, like, our government has experimented on people because they need to know the effects of it, and it sucks. And so yeah, like I don't. Luckily, I work for like a part of the government that people do have a lot of trust in, except when it comes to election time. I've actually had people tell me during the last couple of elections that, like, they thought we were killing ballots or holding ballots back, or like we were snooping through ballots. And I'm like, dude, I just want your mail. Like, do you have anything to give me? Here's yours. Like, I don't want to have.
Do you think I want to deal with that? I want to go home, man. Like, come on.
But yeah, and we're one of the few that people trust. Never mind, you get to like the IRS or something like that, where people have like zero trust in them.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you get to like the FBI, CIA. That's a whole different story.
So the bombs go off, the ceiling collapses, the Thinker's going to get killed by Starro now that he can get out. We get Ratcatcher escaping, and then we get on the other side of the wall, Flag and Peacemaker waking up and seeing the drive is in distance. And this is another visually striking scene here. The shot of the fight through the helmet of Peacemaker reflection. I was wowed so much that first time I watched this on there.
You know what else I was wowed from? That drive held up pretty well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not one of those that had, like, I'm sure you've seen like the the portable hard drives that have like the big orange rubber around it, so like you can
Yes, yeah, yeah.
transport and stuff. This was just like a regular hard drive. Like that thing, there's no way that thing is working. And this doesn't even look like a solid state drive. This looks like an old regular like uh circular drive. Like that thing would have been demolished, but that thing held up pretty well.
What'd you think of the fight through the helmet? Was it cool?
The whole fight scene between the two of them was cool. Rick Flag and Peacemaker going at it. And then when Peacemaker finally stabbed him in the heart, and they kind of showed that's one of those. I was like, oh yeah, that'll do it. Like that's pretty much the end of old Rick Flag. There, like he's not coming back from that. Um,
Yeah. And that sucks because I really like Rick Flag, and I was hoping they wouldn't kill him off, but it really paid off. This whole fight was so good in the sense of they're both fighting for their ideals of what they have, right?
of what they think
And
is right.
then yeah, yeah, and you can see both sides, like you said, right? Like, okay, sometimes we don't want that. Oh, also they need to face justice for experimenting on kids, but we don't want everybody to know this, and all this kind of stuff. And then just Rick Flag's last words of Peacemaker, what a joke. I just love. I go around saying that sometimes. I'll just walk around and be like, Peacemaker, what a joke.
Like I said, I'm really surprised that Flag was never a bigger character. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, between the name and he's like the all American, tall, muscular, gruff, military colonel. Like like I said, you said he was the Nick Fury of this. I thought he could have been like the Captain America, especially with the name like Flag. And then to kill him off, like that's it. He's done. Like you can't. I figured maybe they would have had the fight kind of end in some sort of a stalemate because then you still have the character that you can use. And I don't know, like I don't know if I've ever seen that actor in anything else. Maybe I have. He didn't seem familiar to me, but
You know what I knew him from, actually? There was a Netflix show that came out a while ago called The Killing. Um, did it start on Netflix or did it start on? I think it did, but it was a show that like focused on this like disappearance of a girl, teenage girl that ended up being dead, and then like solving the crime. And he was one of the cops, and I liked him a lot in that. And then I saw him in the Suicide Squad, and I was like, oh my god, like it's that guy from The Killing. I think he also ended up being in a show called Altered Carbon on Netflix, but I haven't watched that. But I really like Joel Kinnaman. I think he plays his character very well.
yeah, he did. And like I said, I could have. It wouldn't have bothered me if this would have ended in some sort of a stalemate. So that way you can still have like Peacemaker can, and maybe they can meet up again down the road, right? The Peacemaker can kind of still go on doing his own thing. For you still have Flag, who you can. I mean, obviously they're rebooting it, so they can recast the character if they wanted to, and still use him. But before the reboot thing, had they decided to kind of keep going in the same continuity, you still would have had the character. They kind of like they couldn't really use him unless they did some sort of weird bring him back to life thing. So, and I know with comics and comic book movies, they don't like doing that unless there's some sort of a finality to that character, right? Because then someone may come up with a great idea later you can't really use because Flag's dead. Like, how do you bring him back? But
That's what I like about James Gunn, though. Like he had no qualms about killing off such a character like this. Like, um, because it is rare in comics, and even in some of these movies where they'll not really. They'll sometimes reverse it and stuff. Showing that go into his heart was like, all right, yeah, like he's he's dead.
yeah, because we've learned
Um,
before, like if you don't see the death on the screen, there's a chance
yeah.
they're not actually dead. Seeing that go in his heart, that's a pretty much final. Like, no, he's gonna die.
Also, I looked it up. Joel Kinnaman was in The Killing. It originally started on AMC in 2011, and was on there for 3 seasons, and then Netflix had it for the final season. But it was a good show. First season was good. I think I stopped after the first season, but the first season I liked, and he was a really good part in that. All right. Let's see. What else do we got here? Okay, so Ratcatcher sees this whole fight and the killing and grabs the drive and runs.
I hate to say it, but not saying I agree with it. But if you're Peacemaker, she's got to go too. Like can't got to
Right,
tie up
right. He
those loose
says that.
ends.
I'm
You got to tie up
thorough,
those loose
right?
ends.
And Peacemaker catches up to her and is about to shoot her. And you know what breaks my heart on this though? Is Sebastian like pleading for pleading for
Yeah,
her life
that
next
got
to
me.
her is
That got
like,
me.
man.
At
Well,
least they
and
didn't
then
kill Sebastian in this movie. I would have lost it if they did.
yes, yeah, I know. I'm so happy he survives. And then we cut to upstairs and flash back to 8 minutes ago, where King Shark, sees the aquarium. He has a nice moment with the fish. He thinks he's bonding with people like him, I guess. That's not going to work out very well. Uh, then Milton, Milton, Harley, Bloodsport, and Polka Dot Man are in this like room of cubicles in the top floors after they set the last charges, and Milton dies, and Polka Dot Man is very distraught. He's like, "Oh my god, they killed Milton."
Who's
And
Milton?
who's Milton is what Harley says. And then Bloodsport's like,
He
he
was
was
with
still with
us.
us?
I thought, yeah, I hate to say it, I'm kind of with Bloodsport on this one. Like, I thought Milton would have been back at the van or something. Like, this
That's
is
what he says.
this is one of those like, hey, we're trained for this. Like, we know like, hey, there's a good chance we're gonna die going into this. We kind of signed up for this, whether whether we did it willingly or not, it's another story. But we all kind of signed up for this. I don't know if Milton really signed up for that. Like, that wasn't
Well,
really on Milton.
he's carrying the charges. I paid attention this time because he is walking in with them at the end. Like he is visibly there walking in with
Yeah,
them,
he
and he is
is. Like, I
carrying the
get that
duffel
he's
bags.
there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, it's also one of those. Like I said, he's not really. I think he signed up to be like the transportation dude, not
Yes, he
like
was the driver, yeah. He is
because
a freedom fighter though. He is part of that crew, so maybe he
because
wants
didn't
to
he
lay
have
it
a
out on
gun
the line.
earlier in the movie and they took it away from him? Like, no.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
so he dies.
they have a whole 5 minute conversation about who the hell Milton was. I would
You
have
know what though? It
remembered a
makes sense
Milton.
from Harley's perspective because she just joined them.
Yeah,
She had no clue who Milton was.
she
So
yeah she probably had never even heard the name Milton until Polka Dot Man said that.
yeah, so she had no clue who he was. So
At
I
the end
paid
of the movie, she
attention this
still
time a
doesn't
little bit
know who
more.
he is.
Yeah, because at the end she calls Bloodsport Milton. And she's like, we had a whole conversation about this being your name. uh, so Polka Dot Man's trying to save Harley and the crew, and then sends his polka dots, and it ends up lighting on fire the charges, which then sets the bomb off early. This is what caused Starro to get loose. King Shark now gets swallowed up by these fishes that are like piranha fish. And then the building starts to like slide. It's like blown in half here. It's pretty visually cool here. Um, and they're about to fall off of there. Harley saves Dubois, and then they have to run up this sliding building and get to safety. King Shark falls out of here, and you think he's probably dead. He gets like shot a ton, but he is like a demigod type thing.
I was gonna say yeah, but not only from the fall, how does he survive the 8,000 rounds pumped into him from his army?
Yeah, he's got like super strength because he's like a demigod apparently. So part of the Hawaiian gods type thing. So yeah, he's fine. Thank God. I would have been sad if he died. And Dubois is like hanging on for life, but it breaks and he falls. And he has like this reaction when he lands, like, oh, thank God, I'm like fine. And then that floor just keeps falling as it lands in front of Peacemaker, and he realizes Peacemaker is about to kill Ratcatcher, and he they both quick draw and shoot at the same time. And this is kind of foreshadowed because I think Peacemaker mentions earlier about having bullets that can go through other people's bullets. And this time, Dubois is the one that is able to do that. And he gets Peacemaker in the neck here. I think originally the plan was for this to kill Peacemaker. This is when James Gunn changes plans a bit when he saw how well Cena was doing, and adds that post-credit scene. This also kind of fulfills the agreement in the bus. This is something I never really paid much attention to before, but in the bus conversation, Bloodsport tells Ratcatcher when she's talking about her dad, like, I'm going to get you out of here alive. So here you go. He saves her here. And she returns the favor, and she had actually said on the bus conversation on her end, I'm going to get you out of here alive. So they actually say that, and then they both actually save each other. When she saves him with the rats when Starro is about to hurt him. So pretty cool foreshadowing and layers that like James Gunn is just really good at that I didn't pay attention to before. But Starro gets out and starts to take over people with the smaller starfish. The new Presidente gets Starroed here, and then the scene when they're like, "Oh, he's dead! Like I'm Presidente now," and then the people, the resistance fighters, just come knocking in, and then they just take them all out. So it was like this. The succession
Quick,
ends
yeah, that
there.
was a quick reign right there.
Yeah. Okay, and then Waller's comms come back on, and she's like, "Great, everything's good. You got the information. Get out." And they're like, "Well, what about Starro like taking over this thing?" And she's like, doesn't really, doesn't really
I don't really
matter,
care
right?"
about that.
And this is where Dubois goes rogue. And, you know, there was a moment early on where he mentioned about not wanting to be a leader. And she said, like, I can make a leader out of you. And she kind of does here, too. This is another cool, like, layer circular thing here that he is the first one to go AWOL and start leading them back into the city. And they all do lead, like follow his example, his leadership to turn around, not caring if they're going to get blown up or not, because they're just going to try to do the right thing. And I love the camera work here where they have like half of Dubois' face and you see like two people behind him, and then it like shifts over to the other half of his face and then the two people behind him. And she's about to blow up the head of him when the one lady again just knocks her out with the with the golf club. And then, you know, the headquarters, Amelia Hardcore and Johnny Economos start assisting them with taking out Starro. I guess any thoughts on that real quick before we move on to the final fight here?
Uh, I would say honestly, I would like to see more of the repercussions of what happened after that. Because I mean, it worked out, I guess, but you also had one of her subordinates knock her block off with a golf club.
Don't
That
they
kind of
show her getting arrested at the end too?
no, she's still because she was the last I remember was when she was talking with Elba's character there on the
Yeah.
phone, and you know says he has a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of just looks over and sees the rest of her crew like in another room, like in a conference room, and she's kind of staring them down. And then
I thought they show Flo, the one that hit her, getting arrested, but I can't remember
I mean maybe I
in that
missed it. I
scene.
don't know. I don't recall it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I don't
Yeah, yeah,
recall it. And then there was the in the post credit scene where they showed John and the other lady.
yeah,
Basically, they were like, yeah, they admitted they were getting punished basically for.
yeah. Punishment for going AWOL, pretty much.
But I'd like I'd like to know more what happened with that.
Uh, that's pretty much Peacemaker of the show. is that. Um, okay, so Polka Dot Man unfortunately dies here, but I do like how Dubois gets him to fight Starro. It's like, do you know who that is? It's your mom, and he just like takes her out a bit, and then is so excited he's a hero, and then gets squashed right there. But he also tells King Shark, monster is nom nom. And he's like, monster nom nom? Goes and starts eating them. Harley realizes what the javelin is now meant for. This is where Ratcatcher saves Bloodsport, and has the flashback to her dad, who has a really nice line, played by Taika Waititi, by the way.
Yeah.
Of
Who was just on The Simpsons not that long ago.
Oh, was he?
He playing himself, yeah.
Oh, funny. When she asks, why rats, Papa? And he says, if they even have a purpose, like, so do we. And it is a pretty nice message. I love the music here by John Murphy. This is the one song I bought of the soundtrack, is this, of the score, is this triumphant song when she's, having the rats come over. The rats and Harley kill Starro as she pierces the eye with the javelin and leads the rats into it.
Yeah, they kind of telegraphed that one with the ledge of the building going up to
Yes, yeah.
to the eye.
It worked
it
out
was
perfectly.
Like, it was one of those like, okay, I can see where this is going. But...
Yeah. And you see little Sebastian float past her because he's got like his little jacket on.
His
And
little
he's so
backpack
cute.
and everything.
We get this haunting line from Starro, I think, because it really shows how much of it's not even his fault. It is when he says, I was happy floating in space watching the stars. And really, it all comes down to the astronauts that were Americans, by the way, who are like, oh, we need to bring this thing back. And then bringing him back, he gets experimented on the whole time. So he probably just thinks all humans are like that. And then finally gets free and starts just destruction, but then dies. And it's just like, hey, if you guys would have left me alone, like none of this stuff would have happened. I was happy the way I was. And it is very sad. I feel bad for him here.
He was just floating through space doing his own thing. Like,
yeah. So the Americans are bad twice over in this. We have Bloodsport's daughter watching TV, and she's like, that's my dad. So she's finally proud that her dad has turned a new leaf, I guess. We get the freedom fighters have taken over, and they say they'll have democratic elections. And then as they're leaving, we get Sebastian cuddling on Dubois' lap, and he starts to pet him, and maybe getting through his phobia a bit of rats. And this is another thing you're talking about, how they don't check stuff. He's early in the movie, how he's like, I have a thing about rats. And they're like, oh my God, Dubois got a rat phobia? It's like nobody knows anything about any of these people.
Especially when you're going to put him with someone called Ratcatcher 2. How do you not... But in all fairness with that, I can kind of... His explanation, he says, I'm an assassin. Like, I can't put my, you can't put his information out there of like what's going to defeat him. He's an assassin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so I get that, but also at the same time, like, yeah, it's their job to know. Like, do they interview these people at all? Like, get some information on them? Like, what's going on? You got a damn weasel that can't swim. You decide to drop him in the middle of the ocean.
I love though that the end here when he's able to say like, look, we have the data. It's on a secure server. If anything happens to me or any of these people or my daughter, this gets released immediately, or we all go free. And Waller's kind of stuck here and has to allow it.
That doesn't mean she won't have a backup plan getting set up.
Right.
But yeah, no, she doesn't have a choice in that one.
I think for her there, it's like, okay, we chalk that one up to, if I don't do anything, it stays buried. And I have probably another 50 other projects that are like that. So,
yeah,
that one's whatever. I can have the other 49. Mid-credit scene is Weasel waking up on the beach. coughing up water. And then, of course, the end credit we talked about. Harcourt and Economos go to the hospital, and there's Peacemaker barely alive. And they say, the doctor's like, what do you need him for? And she's like, just to save the fucking world. And that does carry over into Peacemaker, the show. So if people have watched this for the first time for the podcast and they liked this movie, I would say you definitely want to jump over to Peacemaker. All right, before we get to ratings, I just want to ask you, did you have a favorite character out of any of these other than Sebastian? Out of the Suicide Squad, I guess.
Uh, King Shark with his line about the mustache just will always tickle me. Um, I'd say between Bloodsport and Peacemaker.
Yeah. I have a Peacemaker shirt actually now too with the logo on it. But mine was Bloodsport and Rick Flag. Those were two I liked, and I really liked Ratcatcher too. Like I really got to like her, and thought that kind of the whole heart of the movie I feel like is between Bloodsport and
Right.
her.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting going into the movie, All right, so let's get to ratings. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have this at a 90%, which is, I think, the best of the DC Extended Universe. Audience score of 82, Metacritic 72, IMDb 7.2, Cinema score of B+. Pretty decent for an R movie, not usually considered good for a comic book movie, but with the R usually does bring down the cinema score. I'm not really sure why. It's just statistically if you look at them. Box office only 168.7 million. The budget was 120, I think. So it didn't really make
Oof.
anything, but with it being such a critical success, DC kind of felt like it was a win, and that's why they're like, yeah, you can do Peacemaker. Yeah, you can take over the whole DC universe. Once they changed to that. So, plus it was also released the same time during COVID with on HBO Max, so that probably ate into some of
Oh
the
yeah, that definitely had to eat into the money
yeah.
because I mean, if you're already paying for HBO Max subscription, well, okay, was this because I know like with Disney, they had some movies that
This
were
was
on Disney
free.
Plus. Okay, that was gonna be my question. Did you still have to pay? Because I know,
Yeah.
like Black Widow, I think you still had to buy,
Yeah.
but it was 25 bucks, and you think about it, that's still cheaper than taking a whole family forward to the
Right.
movies, right? So
And going to get popcorn and then you
yeah,
would be able to watch it forever on there until it came on.
yeah.
Like
So okay, I
on
didn't
that
know
one.
it was
But yeah.
free on there. Yeah, so that was gonna be my next
Yeah.
question was. So yeah, that
Because
definitely probably
HBO
had
did
a
that for every movie in 2021, and it really backfired for them because they thought, okay, this will drive subscriptions. This will, I don't know. Uh, Theaters still weren't very back, by the way, right now until really
yeah.
No Way Home at the end of 2021 really sent it like sky high with 1.5 billion or whatever it was. All right, my rating. I guess this would not be a surprise. This is a 5 out of 5 for me, but like I said, this is the only DCEU film for me to get that high. There's been a lot of hit or miss for me in this. It is my highest rated. Sometimes that shocks people, but I just love everything James Gunn did with it, and it made me really have faith. Like when they announced him taking over DC, I just knew from this, from Peacemaker, and then of course from the Guardians, I was like, he has not had a miss for me at all when it comes to superheroes and stuff. So I was like, and seeing him be able to do it with DC characters helped as well. And yeah, so that's where I have this movie. So Casey, I put it to you here. It sounded like it was a rough beginning. Where did you end up with Suicide Squad?
All right. So like I said, I had knowledge in general from the first movie, which I thought was okay. Uh, I I still say before I saw this, I didn't know why the movie was made or what it was for. Like who was asking for this movie. Um, I went into this with no knowledge and like no expectations. I didn't really think I was gonna enjoy this movie. Like you said, start off pretty rough when you get Pete Davidson and a weasel. Like it's not a good way to start a movie. Just anybody out there, if you happen to be listening to this and you're gonna make a movie, and in the first 20 minutes you have Pete Davidson and a giant weasel, like I can't imagine your movie's gonna be very successful. I could be wrong, but I'm just gonna say chances are not so.
Right.
Um, but as I gave it a chance, and once, so I'll say this: I also watched this on Netflix. I've watched this basically for free. It's included with my subscription. Um, I would give this a 4.5 out of 5. I did not
Nice.
anticipate that I would enjoy the movie. Like I said, it started rough, but it was a fun movie. Visually, it was quite impressive. Um, if I were going to pick this up in a physical version, bare minimum, I would have to go with Blu-ray.
Hmm.
I would probably try to get the HD Blu-ray version
Yeah, the
for
4K.
HDR. Yeah, I'd try and get the 4K version to see what it would look like in HDR and with the 4K visuals. Um, had I went to the theater and saw this back in the day, I don't know if I would have gave it such a high rating. I'm not gonna lie,
Hmm.
but being in fact I didn't have to go spend $15 for a ticket and another $15 for food and everything else, like that's definitely gonna influence my decision. Um, but it was an enjoyable romp. It was one of those just shut my brain off for a couple hours, watch it, go with the ride, and then once they got their hooks in me, like that was it. Once I fell for Sebastian and gave up on King Shark and decided, okay, whatever, I'll just accept the fact that he's gonna wear a fake mustache. I was along for the ride.
So what price did you say?
I would definitely try and catch it on sale. I don't know if I'd be willing to pay because HD Blu-rays are like 30, $35 a pop.
All right, let
Like
me
if
tell
you,
you the price that's on Amazon, and you tell me if that's a good price for you.
okay,
4K, 16.99 right now.
oh, I'd buy that in a heartbeat.
There you go. Yeah.
Because like I said, if you get it if it's not on sale, I think a 4K release on Amazon is usually like 35.99 or something like that. It's up
Yeah.
there. Like it's
I was
not.
just looking because the Marvels is coming out on 4K. Target had it listed at $38. I get Disney Movie Club, and it's my title of the month, and it was $30. So I bought it on Disney Movie Club instead because I was like,
Yeah,
that's eight
yeah.
dollars cheaper. It came
These
out to
four
35 with shipping, but like whatever.
yeah, but these 4K Blu-rays are not. I mean, everything is going up, inflation, all that. But I remember New Movie Tuesdays, which I don't even know if it's still a thing anymore, right? But I remember back in the
It is, yeah.
day, New Movie Tuesdays, new DVDs and stuff would come out, especially new releases. $25, maybe like usually like the first couple days it was on sale for like 20, right? 19.99, something like that. Um, and then Blu-rays came up. I think on sale they were starting at like 25. Like regular price were probably like the 29, and now these are creeping up towards 40. On a regular basis. And I have a big wish list on Amazon of movies I want to get in like 4K and Blu-ray. And I always get notifications of like, oh, the prices of these movies have gone up and gone down. And some of them I got on there when they were first full price, and like I said, it's $36.99, $35.99. It's like
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to own that movie, but I don't know if I'm willing to pay $36 for it. Brand new. Um, wait, 16? I'd afford $16 for this. How often would I watch it? I don't know. But would I afford $16 over
Right.
to add it to my collection physically? Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend then checking out Peacemaker then.
I
Whenever
may
you
I
get the
may actually
chance.
check that out. Like I said, I thought I saw it got like pretty good reviews and people enjoyed it, but I really had no knowledge of the character, and I wasn't didn't think I would have enjoyed this movie. So that's why I was like, I'll just skip. It, like in all
Yeah.
fairness, I hadn't enjoyed a lot of the DCU stuff, DCEU stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So not like DCEU stuff, but like just DC in general. Did you have a favorite like superhero or character that you were familiar with from there? I'm guessing Batman. You probably saw Batman before.
I saw the Batman movies with the
Bale.
Burton Batman movies, and then Keaton and Clooney and Kilmer and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I did manage to see, and I think I have the physically the Christian Bale trilogy. Um, but like I said, then Ben Affleck did Batman, and nothing
Yeah.
against him. But I was like, do we need another Bat? Like they started changing him so quick, and like 2 years later, like we're doing another Batman movie. And I'm like, dude, like this one just like barely left the theater. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can we pump the brakes on it a little bit? I knew of obviously Superman. The last Superman movie I saw though was the one with Brandon Ralph,
Ralph. Yeah.
where Kevin Spacey was Lex Luthor. Ouch.
Superman Returns. Yeah.
Yeah, which was okay, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't. I think I might have owned one, but I don't think I saw any of the Henry Cavill ones. Um, I just recently watched Wonder Woman for the first time a couple years
Oh,
ago, or
nice.
last year, a couple years ago when I went to Colorado. I saw the first one. I haven't had a chance to check out the second one yet. Um, Green Lantern, I had no desire to see because I knew nothing about the character, and that just didn't appeal to me. And then I saw it was horribly rated, so I was like, okay,
I
fine.
liked Green Lantern, but yes, a lot of people did not.
Yeah, that was very, very critically panned, commercially panned as well. So much so that Ryan Reynolds went back and kind of
In
retconned
Deadpool, yeah.
that in Deadpool. Yeah. So that's it. And I don't know what other. I don't know if they came out with any other characters, but once you start getting the smaller characters that people don't know, to me, it's kind of like I don't know.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, okay. So what are we watching next?
So I was I was watching something. I can't remember what. Let me see. I was watching a football game uh, during the regular season, not that long ago, before the season ended,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw that a movie I enjoyed was coming on. Uh, they were making a TV show out, and I was gonna pick this movie previously, but it was not on streaming. I think it just came back on streaming because the TV show is about to come out here soon. Uh,
What could
Donald
this be?
Glover. Donald Glover is playing the
Oh,
title
okay.
role of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So we're gonna go back to 2005 and watch Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt break up Brad Pitt's marriage and see the spy thriller Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like I said, this was one of the first movies I was planning on picking, but at the time it wasn't streaming anywhere.
Wow.
I think this
Prime
is something.
Video.
Yes, it is on Amazon Prime, and Amazon Prime is also the one that is showing the Donald
Makes
Glover
sense.
led
Makes sense.
series. So I think they probably got the streaming rights due to the series coming out and wanted people to be able to watch both. But I enjoyed this. Obviously, they're not together anymore, but Brad Pitt was with Jennifer Aniston at the time, and there were a lot of wild rumors that came out that while they were filming this movie, there were some things that happened with him and Angelina Jolie. It's not for me to judge if anything did happen. But I remember watching this movie. I think I came back from my last tour in Iraq and I watched this movie. And at least to me, you could see chemistry between the two watching this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And it
That's
was
what I've
one of
heard. This
those.
is like a mythical movie because of that, right? Like because of the breakup of their relationship.
Okay. So you remember a couple years ago, what was a movie with Brad Pitt and Lady Gaga? Stars Born?
You mean Bradley Cooper? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
the
sorry, Bradley
Stars Born.
Cooper
Yeah,
and Lady Gaga Stars Born. And you remember all the stuff that, and I don't know, but you remember all the stuff that came out from their, I think it was the Grammys or the Oscars, they did a musical thing. And
yeah, and
people
people
were
said like their
like,
chemistry.
I was like, whatever. And then I watched that performance between the two of them. And I was like, look, I don't know if something happened, but it would not surprise me if they either something did happen or they had to fight some urges connected, like while filming that movie, because there was like I saw chemistry there, I saw sparks between the two, and I'm usually oblivious to stuff like that, and I was like, oh, these two might have had to find a way to keep their hands off each other. When I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I was like, oh. I would say I'm also biased because I think Angelina Jolie is incredibly beautiful. And at the time in 2005, she was one of the sexiest women in the world. Like, she was just smoking hot, incredible. So, I'm biased in that aspect. I can't deny that. But watching this movie, like, after I saw her in one, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw her and Brad Pitt in this, and I was like, yeah, if things were kind of rocky with him and Jennifer Aniston, and then he went to go film this, I can understand why that he might have to make a call and say, yeah, this isn't working out. We're gonna have to end this.
All right, so we're watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon Prime. We're talking about the
Yes,
movie, not the TV show that's coming out.
I'm probably going to check out at least the first. I don't know if it's being released all at once or if they're
I
doing
thought
a
it
week
looked
release.
interesting. Actually, I saw previews for it too, and I thought there was a. I was like, um, the line where Donald Glover says something about like how they're not going to have sex or whatever or whatever, and then that like then they played something as a joke, and I was like, oh, that actually looks pretty good.
And
But
I think they're tweaking the story on this one. So in the movie, there are two people who are spies for competing agencies that don't know what each other does. Like they have their own
mm-hmm.
lives. Like they end up
Right, I
becoming a
remember
married
the
couple.
trailer. Yeah.
They have their own lives, and they know. Like I think he has a job as a architect, quote unquote. And I forget what she does, like a consulting agency or something. But they're spies and assassins that work for competing agencies, right? And they don't know it until they run into each other. Um, Somehow, like I won't spoil that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you'll have to see how. And hilarity and chaos ensues. I think I read for this one that they work for competing agencies, but they're paired together for something to act like a married couple, and then maybe the
That makes
chemistry
sense. And then they
forces them.
might be start feeling real stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, some things happen. I don't know. I'm still waiting. When it comes out, I'm gonna check it out to see how the story progresses and goes from there. So I think they're tweaking the story a little bit. Uh, I hope it doesn't disappoint because I never got a chance to check out the True Lies series that showed up on Paramount Plus, and I'm kind of
Mm.
thankful because it was very critically panned, and then it ended after one
Oh, was
season.
it?
It ended after the first
Dang.
season, and that was it Ginger Gonzaga from She-Hulk was actually the star of that one. She
Oh,
was
okay.
she played the Mrs. Tasker. You've seen True Lies, right?
No, I don't think so.
We have to fix that. That is going on the list. The
There you go.
problem
That's
is right
another one on
now,
the list.
well, they haven't come out with like a Blu-ray of it. It's supposed to come out, I think, this year.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
but forget who does it. Is Michael Bay? Forget who does it. But he hasn't come out with a copy of it, a high quality copy of it. because of some with transfers and trying to get it done right. So, but it's supposed to, I think it's supposed to come out sometime this year.
Oh, this is with Schwarzenegger as well, huh?
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Hmm.
Where like
James
he
Cameron.
James Cameron, yeah, James Cameron didn't release it. Same thing with like the Abyss, like he like the transfers weren't coming out right or something, and so there was,
He
uh,
finally did release The Abyss on 4K.
yeah, and like I said, I think True Lies is supposed to come out sometime this year. So one of the Twitter accounts that deals with physical media, like that was a big thing September, October last year when it was announced. So definitely have to check that. Has a young Eliza
All right.
Dushku in it, Tom Arnold.
Oh, really? All right, well, that wraps us up here. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and remember that's going to be in 2 weeks, not next week, that we will be back for that. So, make sure you send us your feedback on the Suicide Squad if it's something you hadn't seen before, or if it is something that you enjoy watching and you want to comment in the comments below. Like and subscribe. We've been getting actually a lot of subscribers recently, thanks to some of these picks that we've been having. So thank you all if you are subscribed.
Welcome
You
aboard.
can also reach us at, yeah, you can also reach us on all the socials that are in the show notes in the description below. If you wanted to send us any sort of feedback or messages or even suggestions, if you think that there's a movie that one of us hasn't seen, you can go ahead and do that. You can also follow me on Letterboxd. I put my reviews on there after I watch them. I don't write a review. I just mean like my rating. Um, but I only do that for ones that I'm watching for the first time. So only the ones that Casey's picking, I have a little list of all of those movies in order that we watched them. And then it has the rating next to it. So you can check. I go back all the time to check it to see, like, what did I rate that movie again? Because I don't ever remember. So I'm glad I have that resource. All right. Well, thank you all for watching and listening. We will catch you next time when we talk Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You can watch that on Amazon Prime.